This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content.
It's time to do another mock draft. See, I did a mock draft earlier this week, but then the Cleveland Browns traded and paid for a starting tackle in Titus Howard, which means my calculation on what the Browns are going to do in the draft is going to change a little bit. Now, look, I expect everybody's calculations to change about what the Cleveland Browns are going to do as we get closer and closer to free agency and as more trades get finalized as we get closer and closer to the league new year. Everything's on a swivel. Everything's fluid. Everything can be one thing or another thing different. The Browns could decide that they want to go out and pay Rasheed Walker and then completely take tackle off the board for this team. The Browns could get a wide receiver and completely change the math on what the Browns would bring in at wide receiver. So this is the fun part of the mock draft season. It's also the most hectic and chaotic part of the mock draft season. But it's where we finally start to get the picture be painted for what the Browns are going to be looking for at the start of the NFL draft. So let's get into it. We're going to do a mock draft. You know how we do this. 7 rounds. And we're going to use mock draft databases, mock draft simulator today. So let's get into it and let's get started. All right. So we're going to start here. There should be no surprise what goes on at the top of this draft. Fernando Mendoza. That's not shocking. We've known that's going to happen for a while. Arvell Reese, Mount Noah. Tennessee, David Bailey. Carnell Tate went 5th overall. Now, the one thing I do dislike about this mock draft simulator is they have by far the worst trade engine. Maybe I have to pay the $6 a month to get access to the good trade engine, but this trade engine they have is, and I mean no disrespect to the hardworking engineers who work on this website, who probably put extra time in as a passion project to help this website. But the trade engine is not very good. It's underwhelming, I would say. It could use some improvement because some of them trades, you saw that trade I just got offered, they ain't make no damn sense. We sitting at pick 6. Look who's on the board right now. Reuben Baines on the board. Caleb Downs is on the board. Jeremiah Love is on the board. And you telling me right now, nobody's going to be calling the Cleveland Browns to make this trade? Nobody's going to be wanting to move up? You're telling me that Kansas City wouldn't be interested in throwing an offer out there? You're telling for Jeremiah Love? You're telling me right now that Reuben Baines there and Dallas ain't calling about that? You know what I mean? I just find that hard to believe. And that Caleb Downs is there and Dallas ain't calling about that. I just find that hard to believe. But let's imagine Kansas City is calling us, right? Now, again, Kansas City has a lot of picks. They have a 2027 pick from Dallas. They have 9th, 29th, and the 40th pick in this draft. So they probably are going to be willing to be a little bit flexible with some of these picks to be able to move up to places that they want to move up to. Where this machine values that, I don't know. But I think Kansas City could be a likely trade partner, right? Because they're going to look at somebody like a Jeremiah Love, or maybe they're going to look at somebody like a Jordan Tyson as somebody that they can really use. I think there's something to it. All right, so let's see here. We'll see what we can get. First thing I'm going to try is 29, and that's not as far off as I thought it was going to be, so that seems like I could get 40 from him. But they're more okay. So can I get 27 first from them? They don't want to do that. Let's see what we could cook up here. All right, I'll throw you. Do I want to throw a fifth? I throw a fifth here. And then we can throw in 29. How you feel about that? What about 40? I'm not doing this unless I get 29 or 40, right? So for me, if I'm the Browns, I'm not moving off of 6 if I can't get either a late first in compensation, next year's first in a compensation package, or a second rounder. I think that would be my price point to move on this, right? I do think that maybe this plus that fifth makes sense here. What would it have to take to get done here? It would be a third? That's crazy. I'm not doing that at all. So, again, I don't like the trade machine on this one, but I do want to switch up the board. So, I didn't want to stick with the Pro Football Focus one because that's the one with the best trade calculator. Still has some issues. I think it's a bit too lenient. But realistically speaking, if the Browns end up in a scenario where Reuben Bain, Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Love are all sitting there at 6, they're trading back. And I think it makes sense to trade back in this draft class because, there's some years like last year where I thought that there were 5 or 6 blue chips, but if you fall out the range of those blue chips, there's a dip for the rest of the top 10. This year, there's Mendoza. There's a couple of guys inside of there. But after we get out the top 3, more than likely, we're probably talking about a significant dip outside the top 3. So I don't think there's that big of a difference in this class from being at 6 to 9 or 6 and 12. I think the player you would select would likely be the same person. And because that's the case, I'm more than okay with trading back. And I think this is a scenario that would lead to a trade back. But they're not offering it, so let's just play it straight up. At pick 6, what am I going with? You have Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson on the board. Those are both appealing options. And then at tackle, you have Monroe Freely, who I would probably lean towards more than Spencer Fano because Monroe has more of that build that you want at left tackle. The athletic ability, the ceiling is there. Is he a top 10 pick? Some people seem to think so. Some people, Nate Tice, who's well respected, he has him in the top. He has him as offensive tackle number 1, right? And offensive tackle number 1, that's a top 10 pick. So, if you feel like Monroe is the answer there, you would probably take him. I think logistically speaking, from a roster standpoint, if you're not at a place where the wide receivers available aren't an entire step above what you think the offensive tackle class is, then I think you go offensive tackle here, right? If they're even, I'm leaving and I'm taking a tackle because I think tackle, offensive line, fixing that is much more important than stuffing the wide receiver room at this point. It would be nice to do both, but I think offensive line, getting that settled would be best case possible. And I know that if I don't take a tackle here, I'm not going to get my tackle situation solved later in the draft. I can wait at guard and get guard filled. I can wait at center and get center filled. I can wait at wide receiver and get wide receiver filled. But I can't wait at tackle. So that's why I'm going to go with tackle. I want a true tackle. I want a left tackle. I want Monroe Freeling. Let's put him on the board here. All right, and now we're waiting until the Browns pick here at 24. Now, if I'm looking at the board, Tyson just went. Realistically, Tyson there at 16, I might start making some calls about moving up to 16. Again, the trade engine on this mock draft machine is just not great. But I would start making some calls there about 16, moving up from 24, because we got some extra ammunition and we could move up. That being said, now looking at the wide receivers here, I am perfectly fine with waiting until 24. I could go Omar Cooper. I could go Casey Concepcion. Chris Bell could be an option there. Or I could end up going a different position entirely depending on how the board falls. So let's unpause the draft and get started. Did Sonny Styles just go that late? Am I tripping? Yeah, Sonny Styles just went 20th. This board tripping, man. All right, so we got a trade offer here. Not going to do it. Move back to 35 to get a third next year. Again, these trade engines are weak. Weak. All right. Casey Concepcion would be a good fit. His issue is he doesn't really catch the ball consistently, but he's dynamic with the ball in his hands. Omar Cooper is somebody who, good athlete, great athletic ability, and good 50-50 ball ability. Not the best hands in the world. Kind of reminds me a lot of like Cedric Tillman, like the ability to make the spectacular catch, but not the reliable catch, right? Casey Concepcion has that same issue. I'm not really like thrilled with any of my options here at wide receiver. I am willing to look for other fits here. Kenyon Sadiq is just absolutely not a luxury we can afford. Caleb Lomu already took a tackle. I think we're good at tackle. Casey Concepcion, I'm good on Ty Simpson. Omar Cooper, Blake Miller, Maxon and Anchor. I guess we'll go Casey Concepcion. If I don't click on any of these things and I get blown away by who's available, I think I'm going to have to go Casey Concepcion. Yeah, let's get Casey. Malachi Fields, Jennings Dunker, Caleb Lomu just went. All right. Max Clare available. Caleb Banks. The reason I went Casey Concepcion, for anybody who needs an explanation there, is, there are issues with the focus drops, but he only had like 7 last year. He did, I think, have a good showing at the combine if you were concerned about that. And the Browns need players, wide receivers, that they could get the ball to and rely upon to make plays. Like, I think that's what they're missing the most. They don't really have anybody. They have guys who can get open in intermediate route situations. They have guys who can get open in deep ball situations like Isaiah Bond. But what they really don't have is somebody who can play make with the ball in their hands and be relied upon. And I think Casey Concepcion has a chance to do that. If you look at what he's done as a punt returner and a kick returner, you look at how electric he is with the ball in his hands at Texas A&M. I think that's where you get that hope for him. It's kind of the same thing you're hoping with like a Zay Flowers, even though I think Zay was probably a better prospect than him. All right, so I'm going to look at interior offensive line here at the top of, what pick is this, 70? That's 39, my bad. So at 39, second round, you could go Chase Basantis if you want somebody to play guard for you. If I'm just thinking off the top of my head. Left guard, I think I'm going to leave open with the thought process that, hey, we might get Joe Bitonio back. We have Zach Zinter, and we're going to give KT Leviston a shot to kind of challenge. And even if Joel doesn't come back, we got to see what's up with Zach Zinter, and we got to give KT a shot. So if we're looking at offensive line, I'm looking at center, which I might fill in free agency. So let's imagine we filled center in free agency, because I think that makes sense as well. So let's say we got center in free agency. We got left guard that's going to be in-house. We already traded for a tackle. We got Monroe Freeling. So we're really only looking for one more guard. Chase Basantes would be best player available. I like Kalen Rutledge a lot. And he could be had later on, probably a third-round pick here. Wide receivers, nothing really blowing me out the water here. Linebackers, Jacob Rodriguez is a really nice player. Kyle Lewis is another one if you're looking for a JOK replacement. Tight end, Max Clare, Eli Stowers, Justin Jolly. I don't think anybody here is going to be worth that second-round pick. Caleb Downs is a name you can't ignore. I mean, like, this guy, if he plays the way he played at the Senior Bowl in the NFL every down, he'll be a Pro Bowl, all-pro level player. So you might want to consider going Caleb Banks there. It might shock people that the Browns might go Caleb Banks there, but, let's say they're trying to make a move for a wide receiver, and one of the pieces they can move is where they have a surplus, right? And it's Mike Hall that gets moved so they can get a wide receiver or something like that. Then that would be when you would use that pick to go get Caleb Banks, Edge, Malachi Lawrence, Derek Moore, LT Overton, Romello Height, safety, AJ Halsey, who I'm going to try to get in the third round, him or Genesis Smith. Because I do think this team needs a free safety. Right now, what makes the most sense to me is either D'Angelo Pons, which I think this is early for Pons, or Caleb Banks. So if I can't get a trade back to, where would I feel comfortable taking Pons? See what Minnesota's picks at. 49, I might feel comfortable taking them 49. Want to really jump back to like 50. If I can move back about 10 spots, pick something up. Who's got pick 50? I have no clue. Is that Atlanta? Arizona? No, 35. Baltimore, 45. Sorry about this, y'all. Denver is definitely not at pick 50. It's probably Miami. Nope. Pittsburgh. So who was worse than Pittsburgh this year? New Orleans. All right, realistically, I think this is a move that could happen. It's like the Browns could get 49 for 82 and 182. We could try to push it and get 97, but I don't think that's realistic. But because this trade machine's kind of wonky, I'm going to have to do like a bunch of shit like this in order to get the trade through. Ignore the 2027 picks. This is just what I had to do to get the trade through. These are the picks I'm saying it's going to go for. So I'm saying pick 39 for 49, 82, and 162. The Browns aren't going to get three third round picks in the top 100 for pick 39. I don't think that's what's going to happen, especially when I'm only moving back like 8 spots. I think I'm going to get compensated with the third. Maybe, let's just say we get the third, right? Like, let's just play it like that. We get an abnormally good trade, but ignore the 2027 picks there because that's not going to happen here. All right. So they're offering pick 60 for 49. This don't make no sense. All right. Let's go take Pons. Yeah, we'll take Pons here. Slot corner, physical guy, tone setter, get something for the defense, make your coordinators happy. We already got the offensive line pieces, so we're good. 7 here, 91, we're good. All right. So now we're in the third round. We've kind of handled one of these. AJ Halsey is here. We're going to select Halsey. I think this is going to be a pretty easy selection for me. Anybody else? Yeah, Halsey's an easy selection for me. Let's get that secondary revamped. All right. So if we look at our selections, we got Monroe Freeling early in this draft. I don't know why it's not showing, but I got Monroe Freeling, Casey Concepcion, D'Angelo Pons, and AJ Halsey. So I'm going to look at linebacker. So linebacker, somewhere I want to look. And the interior offensive line is also somewhere I want to look. What are my next selections? 82 and 97. I'm going to keep that in mind. All right, so linebacker seems like we're probably not going to fill that need in the draft. Interior offensive line, I think I'm going to try to get Slaughter and Rutledge, but if I can't get Slaughter, I would be okay with getting Sam Hecht as a center, and then as a backup center prospect, and then I'm gonna call it on a day. I'm gonna move on with my day here. So Kalen Rutledge, welcome to Cleveland with pick 82. Feel really good about that. Let's go ahead and take him. Make sure I'm not missing out on anybody. Wide receiver wise, no. Let's get Kalen Rutledge. Let me see something real quick. Who's younger between Jake Slaughter and Sam Heck? Okay, we got these trades here. Slaughter is 23 years old. How old is Sam Heck? Sam Heck is born in 2003, 22. Okay. So not a significant age difference there. Slaughter is there. Ted Hurst is there. I might go Ted Hurst. But I might be able to get Ted at 107 and still get Sam Heck. Linebacker, I'm good. Offensive line. About edge. We're good. Brian Parker's still available. Yeah, I'm not going to go center here. I got too many options available to me. Let's go wide receiver. Let's take Ted Hurst. I think if there's one like day 3 blossom guy at wide receiver, you know, in the same way that we've seen other guys kind of blossom up at wide receiver in the past, I think it's Ted Hurst. Just the size and his tape's really fun. You know what I mean? He was real fun to watch at the Senior Bowl. Contested catch. I think he's a little underrated with what he can do with the ball in his hands. I think he's a pretty unique prospect here. Okay, interior offensive line. I can go Slaughter, Sam Hecht here. Is Brian Parker still available? When's my next pick after this? 107. What was that trade offer I got? Probably should have took that trade. Okay, so Sam Roush. What's the drop off? Because I don't pick until 145 again. What's the drop off going to look like for tight end? Delp might be there. Borinker is going to be there. I could still take a tight end later. Defensive line. Might want to peek at Zane Durant with my next pick here. Is Bud Clark still on the board? No, he's gone. Okay, yeah, let's take a center. Brian Parker's interesting. How old is Brian Parker, too? Let me look at that up. If he's 21 or something, I'm taking him here. Let's see Brian Parker's age. He's 23. All right, so him, Sam Hecht, Slaughter. Slaughter just was so damn good at the Senior Bowl, man. Hopefully he could play guard a little bit, but he's plug and play. He's plug and play. So if you get Slaughter, you might just have a starter right out the box here. The value at 107 is pretty hard to ignore. Was trying to get myself into a position where I can continue to grab value up the board before I address center because there's so many centers available. And this is what I mean, where I'm like, I don't know. I think maybe the center market in the draft might be hotter than we think, because there's so many centers available this offseason. Like there's like multiple starting centers available in free agency and a lot in the draft. You know, I do wonder how that changes how much money's going to get thrown out there for some of these centers and some of these teams looking for centers. Let's go Jake Slaughter. Roush just went. Heck just went. Park just went. All right. So we're looking at Justin Jolly, Oscar Delp, linebacker wise, Aiden Fisher. Okay, so if I look back at my selections, 2 wide receivers, we went 3 offensive linemen, Rutledge, Slaughter, and Monroe Freeling. We got Ted Hurst, AJ Halsey, D'Angelo Ponce. Pretty well balanced draft so far. We could look at an extra running back, corner. We're pretty full at corner now. Linebacker would be somewhere we could fill. Maybe you like Aiden Fisher, right? He's a fun player out of Indiana. The Browns do need bodies in that linebacker room. So it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world to go after a guy like him. I think we're done with offensive line and wide receiver. Quarterback here could be an option, but I'm not really into any of those. You know, Oscar Delp could be an option here at tight end. Zane Durant, I might want to just do that. Let's get a defensive lineman. Let's get an extra body in there. Zane Durant was really impressive at the Senior Bowl. Real fun guy to watch. Downhill type guy. Yeah, let's take Zane Durant. And if Delp's back or if Delp's there, I'm taking Delp. And then if he's not, I'm probably going to go Fisher. Let's get Durant here. No, thank you. Delp's still there. We'll go Delp. And then we got a long, long wait here. So we're probably handling linebacker with some free agent pickups and what we have on the roster. Wonder if Harkey's going to be gone at 205. Kalen Black just went. CJ Daniel. Tyron Montgomery's still there. And keep an eye on that. So Tyron Montgomery, that would be a nice pickup here. Good playmaker. Nothing here in interior offensive line, linebacker. No, we're good. One right. Yeah, not a big fan of Markel Bell. Yeah, let's get Tyron. Maybe he could return some kicks or some shit like that. Yeah, he'd be fun in camp at the very least. I wonder if Reiger is like super low on this board. Okay, no, they're not super low on Reiger like Pro Football Focus is. See, I've done offense, defense, offense. I got 3 wide receivers, 3 offensive linemen. I got an extra tight end. We're good offensively. Defensively, a defensive lineman and 2 secondary players. Damn, I was hoping to see a Youngstown State kid there. Well, actually, I think I can. Let me go all. See if I run into a YSU kid. I'll go YSU kid here. Probably pick up Wet Jen and UDFA. Yeah, let's just draft a linebacker. Let's get Jack Kelly. All right. And that is the draft for me. So handled left tackle, offensive line, you're pretty much taken care of after the selections. All right. So for whatever reason, it did not count my first round pick, but Monroe Freeling was the first selection here. Casey Concepcion was the second selection. So with those 2 first round selections, I handle a need at wide receiver, get you a playmaker, also get the left tackle. So now we have two starters on the offensive line for sure. A possible with Joe Batonio. Maybe you sign a center in free agency. Maybe you wait. Either way, in this scenario, you would be good. And then you still need to get a guard, but I handle that later on in the draft. D'Angelo Pons gives you an extra corner. Remember, Denzel Ward isn't getting any younger, so you're going to have to move guys around eventually. Want to have some extra depth there at DB. We don't currently really have a slot corner either, so Pons would be the best person you can get for that kind of a role. AJ Holsey is a free safety. We're probably going to let Ronnie Hickman walk in free agency. You get a replacement there and a true free safety. Keelan Rutledge at guard, put him at right guard. Let him wear Wyatt Teller's number. Let him embody that kind of physical violence that Wyatt Teller did at 77 at right guard. Feels like a perfect fit for me. Ted Hurst is another flyer you're taking at wide receiver in the top 100. Good size, good speed, ran a really nice 40, had a really good Senior Bowl. I think he's underrated. Jake Slaughter, I think you could plug him in today and start him at center. Zane Durant, another kind of pass rush first defensive tackle. We know how much the Browns love those guys. Oscar Delp, tight end. He's worked with Todd Monken before. Tyron Montgomery, another wide receiver. He was a good playmaker at the Senior Bowl. And then you also can get, maybe some kick return reps out of him. We're going to need that. And then Jack Kelly, we just got a linebacker because we needed a linebacker to add to the roster. But that's the mock draft after the trade and the combine. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.